I'm going to start recording, and I just want to just get on the record that you consented, you were good with everything, and we good to go as far as, okay, perfect,
Yeah.
perfect. So what I would like to do, because I know that you said, first and foremost, how are you? First and
I'm
foremost.
doing well. Thank you for asking.
Yeah.
How about you?
I'm well after all of this going back and forth. I am well as I can be, as I might as well say, and pretty much complaining is going to do what?
Not a thing.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think we're on the same page, is that I think we got a similar vibe to how we're dealing with life and things that are coming at us, whether we're in control of certain things or not. So I truly, 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 truly appreciate you participating. I do. I believe that your perspective and what you have to offer and your approaches and your practices are going to be very beneficial. And I don't know if people have the current lens to actually recognize that you're before your time, but on time.
Thank you. Thank you. That means a lot. It confirms a lot, and it tells me keep going. So I appreciate you for seeing me and for the encouragement. I do.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I could hear it when we were in the last little session that we were in. I'm like, this woman has something to offer, something to say, and she's creating the space. You're carving it out. Just keep moving. Just keep moving with it. Each one of these spaces, you're going to get attendees, audience members who are like me, who are not like me, but still see you, still hear you. And we're seeing and we're hearing you and we're recognizing you beyond what you're presenting. Beyond what you're presenting. But with my prolonged introduction there, what I would like to do, if I could and if we could, is I know that you wanted to give me some more information and some more details to the 3 questions that I presented to you via email, and I will start with those, and I'm just going to add in 2 more, if that's good.
Okay. Yeah,
because I know that you said that you had a little bit more that you wanted to be able to explain, and I guess you wanted to be able to do that, in a verbal manner.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. The reason why I said that was because I wasn't sure that how I was, what I was trying to communicate would come through through the text. So I just wanted to make sure that I answered you in a way that was, clear, that you could understand and what I was trying to convey.
I definitely understood what you were trying to convey. I'm pretty good with text. Text type information. I'm pretty good with it. I can kind of read in between the lines. I can hear what people are trying to say, even if the words aren't always there, because sometimes the words aren't always there, especially when you're talking about text type communications. So I understand, but if I can, because typically what I understand is, a few days later you hear it again, or it's called, it brings back up, and then you're like, okay, this was something that I wanted to be able to mention or have or detail that it come back to me, and I can say what I need to say. So I'm gonna just present that question, the first question again. So basically, I was saying, I was wondering what your thoughts or approaches would be for coaching individuals coming from broken backgrounds or separate/divided family structures who lack trust from these experiences, seeking to move the conversation forward or outward, about, I know you're talking about, oneness, being connected, and how they can be able to do that. So how would you be able to assist those individuals?
Yeah. So one of the things I think is really important is to understand that we all have these dimensions of how we grew up, how the world has impressed us, how the world has carved its little notch into us. And so while some folks have a deeper brokenness in their family life, and that causes mistrust, also a false expectation about reality. And when I say reality, I mean what the possibilities can be, right? Because sometimes when we have something that we see, we think, this is all there is, this is all I know, right? And so oftentimes that allows us to come from this place of fear, like, okay, well, this is all that there is, so there's nothing else out here. And so we have this expectation that it's always going to be this way and that there's not another alternative. So understanding that all of us have some semblance of brokenness or separation that we've experienced, I think really connecting into that space as a coach is really important. And it's also important to listen and then try to find ways that that person can relate to focus on hope. So like focus on the desired outcome. There's always two sides of something that we want, you know, that we desire, we want. It's what's wanted and what's unwanted, right? So in that case, we have wholeness as what is desired, right? But we know what we don't want. We don't want fighting. We don't want backbiting. We don't want division. And what we want is the opposite of that. So we really have to focus our attention and our intention towards what we desire. And so that would be my method, is to let's take some time to focus on what's the highest possible outcome you can see out of this situation. And then let's just push it a little bit further. Like, if there were no obstacles, you had a magic wand, what would you desire to see? And then for us to focus on that outcome, not all the things that can go wrong, but focus on that. And then really work to put ourselves in the place where we can feel that and what that will do for us and what that will do for humanity. And now we're in a place where we're motivated by this deep yearning desire for this wonderful thing that we have now envisioned. And it exists in our minds, so it exists.
Absolutely. Well said. So I just want to just kind of repeat back to you what I understood from that, or what I took from that. And I like that you said, because a lot of times people are talking about, being very intentional, which I respect. I am with that particular language and that mantra and being, intentional. But when you said, and giving it attention, like we miss that part. A lot of times we're only giving it our attention when we are being intentional about what we're saying at that moment or what we're writing at that moment. In that moment, we're giving it the attention instead of actually having that attention constantly be within and on intention. So I definitely see what you're saying. Visualize, seek the vision that you're looking for. Concentrate, keep your eye focused on that prize, if you will. So I just want to make sure that I'm understanding and I'm flowing with you.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Perfect. So the second question was basically where I was asking, like, where is the bridge in the paradoxical human condition? Because in our condition, there are all these categories, regardless if we chose them. There are all these identities, regardless if we initially chose them, and then later on we decided that we had more, and we added on more. But in that paradox of even just claiming to be a human being, that means a division from animal life, from plant life. It creates a different but consistent kind of division as we categorize ourselves. So how do we, or how do you, in your approaches and your practices, bridge some of that paradox that lives in the human condition that we might not even see or know, or I don't want to say that we're unconscious of it, but it's hidden from in our everyday actions. So how do you approach that?
Ooh, okay, this question kind of lights me up because there's an answer that I can give that a lot of people have a hard time like connecting there, right? Like going right to this understanding of oneness, like we are in one world. There, it's like one body, right? And so we are not separate from any of it. Like, and when we have this division in our minds that says that we are separate from it, we can justify mistreating our water. We can justify mistreating our land and mistreating animals, mistreating individuals and others. And so what I try to do is incrementally take people to that space, that understanding, right? And so with humankind, I want to say we all come from this benevolent source that created everything. I don't care if you call it a big bang, you can call it the universe, you can call it God, the source. It's the source of everything, right? And so because we have that sacred energy flowing through us, it is linking us in ways that we could never, even if we tried to separate. So that's hard for people to conceptualize that. But if we can get them to that on a humanistic level first, like as humans, then we can say, okay, you got that part now. Cool. So realize that we drink water. We need water for our bodies. But if we're contaminating the water or we're mistreating the water or the wildlife in the water, what are we doing to a source that is supposed to be connected to us, or something that we will need? We need to understand our connection to that. And so it's really interesting when you look at how people will find places of belonging, like they're looking for places of belonging or places to fit in. We create this division, like, oh, I'm a person of color, or I am, this, that, and the other, or I'm, Caribbean and I'm indigenous. There's all of these things that are beautiful. Like they're meant to be this beautiful mix of flavors in life. And they're not designed to separate us. They are just there for the diversity, for the beauty, for the richness that all of them bring. And so it's really about finding this balance of knowing yourself in entirety and knowing that you are a part of this universe. And when you stop limiting yourself to that, you will stop limiting those around you.
Well said. I like that. And in knowing yourself, there's a level of acceptance in that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And in that level of acceptance is how you can get into the rhythm of the oneness in which you speak.
Yeah.
I like it. I do. It's just so exciting. I mean to hear others' perspective, your perspective, in how you are presenting it, and knowing that I can resonate with it. I understand where you're coming from. We say it differently, but I understand it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so the other question that I asked in this set was, what happens when the client you're working with chooses, this was the one about social media. And there, before I even ask that, I'm gonna give a backdrop on that just for a second.
Okay.
And the reason why I went for the social media, I mean, I heard you say it, is because, we didn't really know 10 or 15 years ago what the social media platforms could really do. We didn't know really how they stored information, how it will be connected to you for the rest of your life. Now, admittedly so, because I do creative writing, I do a lot of writing I did a lot of writing on social media in context of, lived experiences, indirect experiences, and to work through some of that that mess that's going on, that's in there. And a lot of people didn't really understand that there was what I was writing and then who I am.
Right.
So
Yeah.
there was a disconnect. So I definitely understand why you feel the way that you feel. And then there's this whole other aspect of individuals who are in entertainment. So they use media to express themselves. They use, music to express themselves. They use writing, they use paint, all types of artistic formats to express themselves in media. And social media just has this thing about it that I'm gonna let you get into. That I don't think that we really have been able to see what all it encompasses and how far in the future it can impact you. So in your current standing of what you do on it, and then futuristically what you may want to do or accomplish, how that impacts you. But I'm going to get to this question. So what happens when the client you're working with chooses to release or relieve their pent up emotions via social media? How do you advise them? Based upon your different beliefs and your stand on not using social media to relieve pent up energy.
So I can talk about this from experience. So I think social media is an excellent tool for so many things. It has really, like you said, propelled us futuristically, where now you have comics who couldn't, have an audience, they have an audience now. So I think it's really a really good tool. And I also think there are ramifications that, like you said, we can't even fathom. But one of the things that concerns me is we have learned, if you've seen the, I think it's called the Social Media Project or something like that. It's a documentary about how social media is used to send out different narratives. Oh, gosh, what is it called? I'll give you the name if you haven't heard of it. It's on Netflix. But there are people who are using social media for nefarious purposes. And so we have to acknowledge that. And there's algorithms that are going to show you something that is going to keep you in a silo, right? Echo chamber. So when it comes to trying to heal something, if we're going on social media to vent something, what we're actually doing, we're not giving other people the opportunity to interact with us and actually help us heal. It's a place that we can go to vent and then have people who agree with us just come and trauma, what I call trauma bonding, is like, or bonding over trauma rather, where now we're not working towards the solution of what we want. We're focused on what we don't want, right? And we have other people focused on what we don't want with us. And what that does is it really brings energy to that space and it grows. So now it's magnified in a way that doesn't help me heal. It's magnified in a way that makes it feel like it's overwhelming. Mm-hmm. And I remember, before I entered this space in my journey, really being frustrated because I was trying to educate via social media to folks who really had a different perspective and view. And there were harmful things that came across that screen to me where I'm bearing my soul and really sharing something that's harmful to me. And someone is, responding in a way that causes even more trauma to me. And so I say, if we're working on healing, if we want to focus on bringing healing, I would not recommend using social media for that purpose. I would schedule time with a coach who focuses on social trauma or is working on helping you heal from, a coach or a therapist, or even a group of friends. I have I don't know if you have ever heard of Marco Polo. Yes, love the app. So it's a form of social media because but it allows you to do it within boundaries. And so I have a group on there of ladies that I've compiled from different parts of my life that I knew needed each other in this healing journey. And we share, and we also share from this higher perspective. So now I have someone there who is invested in my healing and me being better, being my best version of myself. I am there with someone who understands what I am going through. And they've also made a commitment and an agreement that we are going to hold space for one another. We're going to make sure that we're pointing each other towards the goal. And so that's the type of environment you want to get in when it comes to social media and healing. Venting is going to leave you with stuff that you'll see 10 years from now and say, oh, Lord, what what did I? And I mean, there's been things that have come up on my memories and I've said, ooh, I'm so glad I've grown out of that. Like, but imagine if we just said everything we wanted to, and how dangerous it could be for us moving forward. We could be a prisoner to that reality.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Ooh. I mean, some extra valid points were made there because, as you said, like just to go back through your timeline. Absolutely, I've gone back through my timeline, even in a creative sense, and it's like, ooh, that's where you were. That's where you were in this creative sense, and this is where your tone was, and this is where your sights were at that time. And it's like, wow, I have come quite a while, in time, in space, in practice, from moving from that vision and really focusing on something that is within my higher self, that is of my higher self, and practicing that and moving that forward. And now I have to, because you mentioned your group of sister friends. Marco Polo. So this question, and it's not to focus on anything particularly negative to bring that energy, but you got to the Marco with this group of sister friends because there had to have been an experience where you thought you were in a larger group of sister friends or individuals that you felt as though you could share with, but they weren't quite there. So this question is more so, how did you resiliently work through those negative tones or that kind of traumatic feedback that you were getting from those that you thought would be in support of your transition, because that's what you were trying to do. You were trying to get into a transition place so that you could transform. You were trying to get into shift mode so that you could start transforming. And they may not have necessarily been there. Their eye may not have been on the same focal point. So how did you gain, maintain, and then sustain that resiliency through that to gather to get to the Marco sister friends?
Yes. Oh man. So when I started this journey, is in some places I'll call it a spiritual journey. It's just a life journey. It's just discovery, unfolding of myself. And I had, like I said, like you said, I had a group, lots of people around me. But as my mentality started to shift, I couldn't occupy the same space. And it wasn't even hard. Like, it was just like, you don't have nobody to relate to at this moment because everybody is in this space. And you said earlier, like, I felt like I was a little before my time because I felt like I was just alone, and I did have some people who were, whether I've known them from my past and they just resurfaced at this perfect point in time. There were people who, were accidentally dropped into my sphere, right? And so I'm having conversations with all of them separately, and realizing that a lot of the same things they were going through, I was going through, and everybody else was too. And it was kind of like, okay, I put the first two groups us together, and we were vibing. And then the other group, it was kind of like, we're talking about all the same stuff. Just bring them together. Just bring them together. And it is about keep swimming. You just got to keep swimming. You just have to keep swimming through it all, and then seeing one another thrive, and the wins, and celebrating wins with one another. I was talking to all of them this morning, and one is just going through like this amazing time of growth, and we all are. But the fact that we can celebrate with one another like it's ours, because it is ours, right? Like it's like rising tides lifts all ships. And so there is no jealousy, there is no competition. And that, in my mind, is how the world is supposed to be. Like that little thing that I have where we can just celebrate because someone has achieved something that they had their mind on, and we saw them through the whole progress of it happening. That is what the world is really called to. But unfortunately, the division, sometimes it keeps us from seeing someone's success as our own. So I hope that answers that question. It's really just about following yourself, trusting yourself, putting up healthy boundaries, making sure your heart is clean and clear, like working on all of these things. And when you're doing that with other people who are doing the same, it just happens. It's natural.
Again, well said. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the biggest thing that last keynote that you just gave me, like making sure that your heart is clean, is essential, because I know that we are very mental beings, but we are very, very emotional. And in that emotional and mental work that we're doing is our social selves. So that what we're saying, what we're conveying, how we are behaving, how our body language and our posture is at times, that's all a part of our mental, and that's all a part of the emotions in which we're feeling. And if the heart is cluttered, blocked, because I deal with the chakras, but if it is blocked, or if it is bruised, it's wounded, it's heavy, that's gonna come through. So this is gonna actually lead me into this fifth and final question, even though I could probably pick your brain all afternoon.
I'm like, we gotta have, I just feel like I know you, Desiree. I'm like, hey, we gonna have to make this kind of like a regular.
Seriously.
When you meet people and that spark happens, like it's valuable. You have to cling to that. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, because it's like breath. You can't live without it. It's like breath. It's like, ooh, somebody just inhaled with me, or I didn't have a breath and they gave it to me. Like it's that kind of feeling. Like, and that's to me, that's awesome, because it's not what the current climate is, what our current environmental ways are. I'm just on that level, and it's many levels that we can get to, but just on that disrupts people from getting that breath. It challenges people from getting that taking it on their own, or inhaling it from somebody else. So like I said, like it's a breath for me, and I inhale deeply. Thank you.
Me too. Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. I did my yoga this morning, but I got a whole nother stretch and flex going on right now. So with that, I want to know, in being able to be aware, being able to know, you clear your heart, that you are surrounding yourself with individuals who are like-minded, you're creating boundaries so that you have safety, you have security. What I want to know is, what are some steps, tools, or some methods that you would tell someone based on your experiences on how to develop coping techniques?
Hmm.
Personal coping techniques, the coping techniques where you don't necessarily have assistant friends, because that has to be developed. So when
Yeah.
you're alone for that moment of time where you had that level of isolation,
Hmm.
how did how did you cope? What would you try to convey or bring across to someone, and what coping techniques you've learned?
Absolutely. So one of them is ask empowering questions. Ask yourself empowered questions, because a lot of times we use our brains for the wrong thing, and we just replay all the negative things that we don't want to see. And so when something happens to us that is a challenge, that we see it as not as a problem, but as a challenge. So as a when in challenges, we are developing something, I feel like. So one of the questions, and I can't say that I made this up, but I listened to Michael Bernard Beckwith a lot. And one of the things that he says is, what is seeking to emerge in me here, right? Like, what am I growing into? What am I learning? And then writing about it. Journaling was huge, and I didn't even call it journaling at the moment. I was just writing about things that came up, observing myself, like sitting in quiet. Solitude is great. It's a beautiful thing. People don't want to be alone. I'm like, leave me alone. Leave me alone for a couple hours. Give me a journal, some music, some binary. I'm good. So yeah, getting alone with self, quieting the other voices, and learning to listen to your voice, like, is powerful. And so a lot of when this part of my journey came to me, it was me writing every day, and I ended up writing a book, and it served as testament of my healing, like what I was healing from, what I was seeing, what information I was gaining. And I think keeping a journal, is so helpful. So helpful. What else? When there's no one around. Finding a practice that works for you. Like, this is another thing. So I grew up in a Christian household. I'm not Christian. I don't call myself Christian now. I call myself spiritual. And, there are things that you're taught but then there's things that just work for you. You know what I mean? And it's about your own unfolding, you creating a relationship with you and the divine, or the source, what your ancestors, whatever feels good. Stop thinking about what other people trying to tell you what to do, and just, or even your higher self, just connecting, like, what am I learning here? What do you want me to see here? How can this, or what moves do I need to make, instead of, being discouraged or afraid, and using our imagination, our creativity to envision possibility instead of negativity. So those are, I feel like they're scattered all over the place. Like, I just was like, here. But those are some of the things that I use to help me in the in the me times, like in the alone times. And don't be afraid, like facing your fears. That's another thing too. Like, really just looking at them, thinking through them, bearing them, facing them is so important, because until we find a place, a path of healing, and I'll say path because we're always healing. I'll be healing till I leave this planet.
Right.
Until we find our path of healing, we are gonna wound others unwilling, like not intentionally, but just through those wounds that we have. And so really working towards walking on that path, knowing that's what I came here to do, heal myself and heal others. So yeah, I think, did I answer your question?
Oh yeah, you did. You did. Powerful stuff you did. Absolutely. I agree with you. As long as we're living, you're doing the work. And if you're living and not doing the work, it's going to be a struggle. It's going to be a constant fight, constant battle just with oneself. So not to mention the outer realms of things that are in your control.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely, as long as we're living on the face of the planet and alive in these human bodies, we're going to rub somebody the wrong way. We're going to hurt them. We're going to impact them, influence them in ways that we don't even know sometimes. Like sometimes we have no idea that, I rubbed you the wrong way. I didn't know that I made that statement and it was going to have that impact on you. And that is a learning experience and being able to face your fears, because I need somebody to be able to tell me that, I rubbed you the wrong way, so that I can try to explain to you or come and give you a perspective of where I was coming from, and that it was not, with malice. It wasn't my intention to come off, and make you feel a certain way or impact you in that kind of way. But definitely, and journaling is something that I've been doing. I've been trying to get this age right forever, but I think since I was like 9, I've always been like a writer, just with my thoughts. In the last 2-3 years though, maybe a little bit longer, I've been speaking. I will speak to my altar. A lot of times I'm in the house and I'm literally pacing. So what I would typically write down, I'm speaking, because I'm finding that my voice on paper is extremely intense. Is it extremely not intentionally to be that way, but people are like, I have to like read it 3 or 4 times, Desiree, to like get it. You putting me on some Toni Morrison Sula, and I don't understand what's happening. I'm in Beloved and the dog flying around. So
Yeah.
so so I've been learning to articulate and speak what I would typically write, so that when I write, I know that I can convey a message that connects further with people. So
That's
I've been having that discussion and having that talk with my mom and the ancestors every day. If something goes on, I give it about 10 minutes. I'm doing my speech. I'm doing my speech back and forth, doing my speech. And then I'm like, okay, I think that's what it is. And now I'm done. So
yes. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And at the
Oh,
end
I
of it,
love that.
I'm like, at the end of it, I'm relieved. I'm breathing. I can get back online like nothing. Like I just did my speech. Some of them are super happy. Like, oh, is this happening? And then some of it is, is connected to what's going on in the world. It's like, I don't understand what's happening here. But once I finish that articulation in that speech, it's like me having written 5-10 pages, because I can write. And then I'm like, okay, I can speak to somebody. I can tell somebody how I feel about that without projecting, without, having the the terms and the vocabulary and the language I use be heavy or hard hitting or hard to understand. It's just easy flowing. Like I'm speaking to you. It's easy flowing. So I've been learning how to have my speeches out loud so I can hear myself. Because I can read myself.
Yes.
I can read myself, but hearing it, it's like, okay, this is what other people are also hearing.
That's powerful. It's the well-rounding of your communication is what I think I'm hearing you say, is like you're able to write, but now you want to hear yourself too, and you want to see how other people are going to receive that verbally. And so you're really crafting your ability to communicate effectively. That's beautiful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I thank you so much, because I know we did ran over time. We was kind of like trying to do the snafu of the technology. Then we got in here, we started talking. But I appreciate you. You don't know how much this means to me this week.
Mm.
My birthday is on the 31st. So I got my first present. I got my first
Happy
present.
born day.
Yeah, thank you. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I send you loads of that high frequency, of that energy that you're putting out to people, and that energy that you want to receive. I send that to you, and I send that your way, and I send it to you infinitely.
Mm. I receive it. Thank you so much. And likewise, I mean, I might have another sister girlfriend to add to the because I just your spirit from the moment that we started has blessed me in ways that just continue to confirm the lessons that I'm learning. Speaking just blessings over you and all that you are doing, knowing that it is going to produce the highest good for you and humanity. So I'm sending all that love and high vibrations and all the things that your heart's desire to you in love. Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you. And as soon as we get off this horn and this is finished downloading, I will shoot it to you via email, get it right over to you. I appreciate you, and I do really hope that we do stay in touch, that we can, be connected, do some more work. I just, that breath, that
Yes.
breath.
Yes. Well, your email is the wholistiCEO, right?
Yes.
Okay, and that you can reach me at the email that I gave you as well. I'm going to be in. I would love to connect and just have a